She works as a nanny for a wealthy family, never expecting that the millionaire single father would fall in love with her. That sentence sounded like the title of one of those cheesy romance novels my best friend devoured on weekends. But there I was, Emma Parker, 24 years old, education major, with a small suitcase in my right hand and a wrinkled resume in my left, standing before the most intimidating gate I'd ever seen. The Sullivan Estate rose imposingly in Boston's most elegant neighborhood, and I was about to cross that gate not as a visitor, but as the new nanny. What I didn't know was that by pressing that doorbell, I wouldn't just be starting a new job. I would be triggering a series of events that would transform my life in ways I could never have imagined. The intercom crackled. Yes. A deep male voice on the other end caught me by surprise. "I am Emma Parker, the new nanny," I answered, trying to sound more confident than I felt. The gate slid open silently, revealing a garden that looked like it belonged in a home-decorating magazine. I walked up the stone path, feeling the weight of my second-hand shoes with each step that brought me closer to the main door. That S when I saw him for the first time. Nathan Sullivan stood at the entrance, an imposing figure in an impeccably tailored suit, brown hair slightly tousled, and green eyes that seemed to read my soul. In business magazines, he was the financial prodigy, the widower dedicated to balancing an empire and raising a 5-year-old daughter. In person, he was even more intimidating. "Ms. Parker," he said, extending his hand. "Punctual. I appreciate that." His handshake was firm, professional, but something in that brief contact sent an electric current up my arm. I had to remind myself to breathe. "My daughter is eager to meet you," he continued, leading me through an entrance hall that was larger than my entire apartment. "Lily is in the questioning everything phase. I hope that won't be a problem." "Not at all," I replied, following him up the stairs. "Questions are the best way to learn." Nathan stopped abruptly, turning to me with a curious expression. "Interesting. Most adults tend to find children's questioning annoying." "Well, I am not most adults," I replied before I could filter my words. A smile played at the corners of his lips, completely transforming his serious face. "I'm beginning to realize that, Ms. Parker." At the end of the hallway, a door decorated with colorful unicorn stickers opened, and a small figure with curly brown hair peeked out. "Daddy." The hesitant little voice belonged to Lily, who looked at me with eyes identical to her father. "S. Is this the new nanny?" "Yes, Princess, this is Ms. Parker." I crouched down to her level. "You can call me Emma. I heard you. Like to ask questions?" Her eyes lit up. "Will you answer all of them?" "I'll try," I promised, smiling. "Even the hard ones, like, why is the sky blue? Or where do people go when they die?" I saw Nathan stiffen slightly at the mention of death. The loss of his wife was still recent, I realized. "Especially the hard one," I replied, keeping my gaze on Lily. "And when I dawn to know the answer, we can find out together." The little girl smiled, revealing a missing front tooth, and held out a pink hair tie. "Do you know how to braid?" "Hair. Mommy knew how to make pretty braids." I felt a lump in my throat. "I know how to make the best braids in the world. Want to see?" Nathan watched our interaction with an expression I couldn't decipher. For a moment our gazes met, and I had the feeling he was seeing beyond the nanny hired to care for his daughter. He was seeing me, Emma, the girl who grew up in the suburbs, who had worked since 16 to pay for college, who carried dreams bigger than her bank account allowed. "Can Daddy stay to watch the braids too?" Lily asked, breaking the moment. "Unfortunately, I have a meeting in 20 minutes, he replied, checking his watch. "You always have meetings," I muttered without thinking. Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." I began, mortified. No, you were right. He surprised me by crouching beside his daughter. How about we watch these famous braids before my next meeting, Princess? Lilier's smile was like a ray of sunshine. Really, Daddy? As I arranged the little girl's hair, with Nathan watching attentively, I couldn't help thinking that perhaps this job would be more challenging than I had imagined, and not because of the child. On that first day at the Sullivan estate, I had no idea that I was about to discover that modern fairy tales can begin with small braids on an ordinary Monday afternoon, and that sometimes it is us, the unlikely heroines, who teach the princes to see the world anew. 3 weeks passed since my first day at the Sullivan estate, and I was gradually discovering the complexities of this family that seemed so perfect in magazine pages. Nathan was rarely home, always trapped in endless meetings and business trips. Lily, on the other hand, was my constant companion, filling my days with impossible questions and contagious laughter. Emma, why does my dad work so much? Lily asked one afternoon as we colored together in the playroom. I hesitated, searching for the right words. Your dad has many responsibilities. He takes care of many people who work for him. But who takes care of him? The innocent question caught me off guard. Well, adults take care of themselves, I answered, not entirely convinced. Lily shook her head, the braid I had done that morning already coming undone. Mommy used to say everyone needs someone to care for them. Daddy hasn't had anyone since she went to heaven. And at that moment, I heard footsteps in the hallway, and Nathan appeared at the door, more casual than I was used to seeing him, wearing jeans and a simple shirt. Our eyes met, and something told me he had overheard the conversation. Daddy! Lily ran to hug him. You're home early. I cancelled my last meeting, he said, lifting her into his arms. I thought we could have dinner together tonight. Can Emma have dinner with us too? Lily asked. I saw the moment of hesitation in Nathan's eyes before he nodded. Of course, if Ms. Parker would like to join us. I don't want to intrude, I began. You never intrude, Emma, Lily declared with the absolute conviction that only children possess. Nathan smiled, a genuine smile he rarely showed. Then it settled. Dinner was surprisingly pleasant. For the first time, I saw Nathan relax, patiently listening to Lily's elaborate stories. When the little girl mentioned that I had taught her a new song, he looked at me curiously. I didn't know you sang, Ms. Parker. Emma, I corrected, automatically. And I only sing to entertain 5-year-olds, nothing that would impress an adult. Try me, he challenged with a playful gleam in his eyes. Now, please, Emma, Lily begged. I took a deep breath and began to sing a lullaby my grandmother had taught me. It was simple, but filled with emotion. When I finished, Lily was applauding enthusiastically, but it was Nathan's expression that left me breathless. There was something new there. Admiration, perhaps. My mother used to sing that same song, he said softly. I had forgotten the melody until now. I think some songs are etched into the soul, I replied. After we put Lily to bed, Nathan invited me for coffee on the porch. The night was pleasantly warm, and the lights of Boston sparkled in the distance like earthbound stars. You were different than I expected, he commented, breaking the silence. How so? More authentic. Most people I know wear masks, especially around me. I gave a short laugh. Well, I don't have much talent for pretending to be someone I am not. My mum always said my face is like an open book. It's refreshing, he admitted. Lily adores you. I've never seen her connect so quickly with someone since... He stopped. Since your wife, I completed softly. Nathan nodded, looking out at the city. Sarah died 2 years ago. Cancer. It was quick and devastating. I'm sorry. The hardest part wasn't he losing her, he continued, as if a floodgate had opened. It was trying to explain to a 3-year-old why her mother wouldn't be coming home, and then trying to be both father and mother while managing a company that employs hundreds of people. Some days, I don't know if I'm failing on all fronts or just surviving. The vulnerability in his voice caught me off guard. This wasn't he, the ruthless businessman portrayed in the media. He was just a man trying to do his best for his daughter. For what it's worth, I said carefully, I think you are doing an amazing job. Lily is smart, curious and kind. That doesn't happen by accident. He looked at me then, really looked at me, as if seeing me for the first time. Thank you, Emma. The use of my full name, spoken almost like a caress, sent shivers down my spine. I had to remind myself of reality. He was my boss, a millionaire from another world, and I was just the temporary nanny trying to pay for my college tuition. The next day I found a book of poetry on the bedside table in my guest room with a note, "Thought you might enjoy this. N.S." It was the first gift in a series of small gestures that began to blur the line between employer and something more. A book today, a genuine question about my studies tomorrow, an invitation to join a family dinner on the weekend. The rain that had been battering Boston had subsided, leaving the air clean and the sky intensely blue. It was Saturday, my day off, but I had agreed to stay for a family lunch after Lily's insistent pleas. Nathan was lighter, almost jovial, as he prepared the grill in the spacious backyard. I was cutting fruit for a salad in the kitchen, watching him through the window, allowing myself a moment of daydreaming. "So, this is how you work when no one is watching?" The female voice, cold and sharp as glass shards, startled me. I turned to find an elegant, middle-aged woman, impeccably styled brown hair and calculating eyes that assessed me from head to toe. I am sorry, but who are you?" I asked, trying to maintain my composure. "Interesting. My son didn't mention his mother-in-law?" She raised a perfectly lined eyebrow. "I am Victoria Blackwell, Nathan's mother and Lily's grandmother." My stomach knotted. The famous Victoria Blackwell, matriarch of the family and known for her influence in the business world. Magazines described her as relentlessly elegant and strategically brutal. "It is a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Blackwell. I am Emma." "Parker, the nanny, yes, I am aware," she interrupted me, placing her designer bag on the counter. "Although you seem to have aspirations beyond your position." I felt my face heat up. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Let you save time and pretense, dear. I know the look of a woman interested in my son when I see one, and I've seen many." "My relationship with your son is strictly professional," I replied, holding the fruit knife firmly. She laughed, a joyless sound. "Of course it is, and that's exactly how it should remain." She walked around the kitchen, touching utensils as if checking for dust. "Nathan has always had a weakness for lost causes. His late wife was different, came from a good family, with appropriate connections. With all due respect, I don't believe my past or my origins are any of your business." Victoria smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "You have spirit, I'll give you that, but be realistic, Miss Parker. You're a temporary distraction for a man who lost his wife too young. When Nathan fully regains his senses, he'll seek someone from our circle." Before I could respond, Lily burst into the kitchen like a whirlwind of energy. "Grandma!" she shouted, running to hug Victoria, who immediately transformed, her face softening into a genuine smile. "You came for the special lunch?" "Yes, my love. I couldn't miss it." Nathan appeared right behind her, and I noticed how his smile faltered slightly upon seeing his mother-in-law. "Victoria, I didn't know you were coming today. The best visits are the unexpected ones, aren't they?" She kissed him on the cheek. "I was just getting to know your new employee better. The lunch that followed was a lesson in elegantly disguised tension. Victoria dominated the conversation with stories of charity dinners and influential friends, sowing subtle comments about how people who understand our world. And when I helped Lily serve dessert, a pudding we had made together the previous evening, Victoria observed, "How domestic, Nathan. Sarah loved taking Lily to the best pastry chefs in the city. Remember Pierre?" I saw Nathan's face harden. But before he could respond, Lily intervened. "But Emma's pudding is the best in the world, Grandma. We made it together, and she let me crack the eggs." Victoria smiled tensely. "Of course, darling. How educational." After dessert, I offered to take Lily to play in the garden, giving Nathan time with his mother-in-law. But as we walked away, I heard Victoria say, "Frankly, Nathan, you need to think about your position. The board is already commenting on your recent choices." I tried not to listen to the rest, focusing on pushing Lily on the swing, but my mind was racing. Was I really deluding myself? Was I just a temporary distraction for a grieving man? Hours later, when Victoria finally left and Lily was put to bed, Nathan found me in the library, where I was organizing some children's books. "And I'm sorry about Victoria's behavior," he said, hands in his pockets. "She can be intense." "She's just protecting her family," I replied, keeping my eyes on the books. "It's understandable. Look at me, Emma." His voice was soft but firm. Reluctantly, I turned. "What did Victoria say to you?" I hesitated. "Nothing that wasn't true. We breathe from different worlds, Nathan. You, and I am just a student working to pay for college." Victoria just pointed out the obvious. He moved closer, reducing the space between us. "And what if I don't care about the obvious?" My heart raced, but I took a step back. "You should. You have Lily to consider, your company, your world." "And maybe my world needs to change," he said, his eyes fixed on mine. "Nathan said, I won't deny there is something between us, Emma, something I haven't felt in a long time, maybe have never felt quite like this. But I want to pressure you. I just ask that you don't let Victoria define what we can or cannot be." That night, I couldn't sleep. What Victoria had said echoed in my mind. Was I just a temporary distraction? The next morning, I found an envelope under my door with tabloid clippings and printouts from gossip websites, all telling different versions of the same story. Nathan Sullivan and his attraction to ordinary women, and the billionaire widower-s pattern, from romance to generous settlements. Why none of the Sullivan nannies stay more than a year. When Nathan confronted me about them later, he was honest. After Sarah's death, Victoria made finding a suitable new wife her mission. Each woman who approached me or Lily was seen as either a potential candidate or a threat. "And the other nannies? There were 3 before you. One left to get married, another received a better job offer, and the third," he hesitated. "The third actually left after Victoria discovered we had gone out to dinner. Once." Later that night, Nathan held my hands in his. "Now I am feeling something much stronger for you, and I'm tired of letting others' opinions define my life. Losing Sarah taught me that life is too short not to follow your heart." "I'm afraid, Nathan," I admitted, "not just of Victoria or the tabloids. I'm afraid of not being enough for your world. My world is what I choose it to be, and I choose for you to be part of it if you want." At that moment, a choice presented itself before me: retreat to the safety of what I knew, or take a leap of faith toward the unknown. "I need time," I finally said, "to think, to be sure." He nodded, respecting my decision. "Time is something I can give." What we didn't know was that time was precisely what we didn't have. For in the shadows, Victoria Blackwell was about to make a move that would change everything. The doorbell of our Cambridge home rang at precisely 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Lily, now 10 years old and as energetic as ever, ran to answer before any adult could react. "Grandma!" Her excited voice echoed down the hallway. "You are just in time for tea." I adjusted little James in my arms, our 8-month-old son, who had inherited his father's green eyes and, apparently, the stubbornness from both sides of the family. He yawned lazily as I made my way to the door. Victoria Blackwell entered with her usual elegance, carrying meticulously wrapped packages in expensive paper. In the past 5 years, a surprising truce had evolved into something almost friendly between us. "Emma," she greeted with a small smile before her eyes fixed on the baby in my arms. "And how is my favorite grandson today?" "Sleepy," I replied, returning the smile, but eager to see his grandmother. The Victoria extended her arms, and I handed her the baby, watching how her normally composed face softened completely when looking at her grandson. It was an even more remarkable transformation than the one I witnessed when she interacted with Lily. "Where's Nathan?" she asked, gently rocking James. "In his office, finalizing the designs for the community center," I replied, leading her to the living room. Nathan appeared in the doorway, paint on his sleeve and a tired but satisfied smile. His transition from executive to architect had been smoother than any of us expected. His first major project, a school for underprivileged children, inspired by my dreams, had gained national recognition, and now he was working on a community center for the same neighborhood. "Victoria," he greeted, kissing his mother-in-law's cheek. "I see you've already kidnapped my son." "Grandmother's privilege," she replied unapologetically. "Besides, he clearly prefers my arms. He has good taste like his grandfather." It was the closest Victoria came to making a joke, and Nathan and I exchanged a look of amused surprise. Lily returned from the kitchen proudly carrying the tea tray she had helped prepare. "I made it the way Grandma likes, with the special cookies and everything." "Perfect, my love," Victoria replied with genuine warmth, as we settled in for the Sunday tea ritual, a tradition Victoria had insisted on maintaining and which had surprisingly become a point of connection between us. I observed our improvised family with a sense of peace. Nathan discreetly took my hand under the table, caressing my wedding ring with his thumb, a gesture he made frequently, as if he still couldn't believe we were together. "Did you know," he whispered, taking advantage of Victoria being distracted by an elaborate story Lily was telling, "that this is the anniversary of the day you first appeared at our door?" I smiled, remembering that sunny morning that had changed everything. 5 years, he nodded. 5 years since the most unsuitable nanny in Boston entered our lives. Unsuitable? I raised an eyebrow in mock indignation. My mother-in-law sees exact words, if I remember correctly. He laughed softly. The most unsuitable nanny, and fortunately for me, the most stubborn too. Later, when the house finally quieted, Victoria departed, Lily asleep after her bedtime. Story, and James finally surrendered to sleep in his crib. Nathan and I found ourselves on the porch, watching the distant lights of Boston. "Any regrets?" he asked, embracing me from behind. I thought about everything we had lived through, the obstacles, the tears, the moments of doubt, but also the indescribable joy, the love that grew each day, the family we had built from the most unlikely of beginnings. "None," I answered with certainty. "Not a single second, because some stories, even those that begin as clichés, are destined to transcend their origins. The nanny and the millionaire? Perhaps, but beyond the labels, we were just Emma and Nathan building a life that neither of us could have imagined alone. And that, more than any fairy tale, was the true happy ending."